Imagine building a company from almost nothing, working for years to make it successful, watching it become one of the most important companies in the world, and then he was pushed out of his own company. This is exactly what happened to Steve Jobs, and for a while he did not know what to do with his life. But years later, Jobs would look back and say something surprising. Being fired from Apple was one of the best things that ever happened to him. How could losing everything possibly become the best thing? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. Steve Jobs was born in 1955 in San Francisco. His biological mother was a young, unmarried graduate student. She wanted her baby to be adopted by college graduates. But the couple who eventually adopted him, Paul and Clara Jobs, were not college graduates. His mother agreed to the adoption after they promised that Steve would go to college. They kept that promise. As Steve grew older, he went to Reed College in Oregon. It was an expensive college, and his parents were spending almost all their savings to pay for it. But Jobs could not see the value in what he was studying. He did not know what he wanted to do with his life, and he did not want his parents to spend their entire savings on something he did not believe in. So he made a frightening decision. He dropped out. He later said it was scary at the time because he had no idea what would happen next. But he stayed around and attended classes that interested him. One class especially caught his attention: calligraphy. He learned about typefaces, spacing, and the beauty of well-designed letters. At that time, learning calligraphy did not seem useful. There were no obvious career opportunities in it. It had nothing to do with computers. But Jobs was interested in it, so he kept learning. But 10 years later, those lessons would shape the way Apple designed its products. And that became one of the greatest lessons of his life. You cannot always see the value of an experience while you are living through it. Sometimes you only understand it years later. During this time, life became very difficult for him. He slept on the floors of friends' rooms. He returned empty Coke bottles to get the deposit money for food. And once a week, he walked about 7 miles to a Hare Krishna temple for a free meal. He had almost no money, but he kept learning. Around this period, Jobs was also searching for something beyond technology. In 1974, he traveled to India looking for spiritual answers. He wanted to find something deeper. He returned to America with a different way of looking at life. During the 1970s, Jobs met another young technology enthusiast, Steve Wozniak. Together, they began building computers. In 1976, they founded Apple. They started with an idea: computers should not belong only to large companies and specialists. They should become personal. It became a major success. Apple grew quickly. As the company became bigger, Jobs became more ambitious. He wanted to make products that people would love to use. Jobs became deeply involved in the Macintosh project. He cared about things many people considered unimportant: the design, the typography, the simplicity. For Jobs, technology was not about engineering, it was about the experience. In 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh. It became an important moment in personal computing. But inside Apple, things were becoming more complicated. Jobs was brilliant, he was also demanding, he wanted control, and he had a very strong idea of what Apple should become. His relationship with Apple's CEO, John Sculley, deteriorated. In 1985, their conflict became a struggle for control. The board sided against Jobs. He was stripped of his operational responsibilities and eventually left Apple. He was only 30 years old. Think about what that meant. This was not a company he had joined. It was the company he had helped create. The company that had defined his entire adult life was suddenly gone. Jobs was devastated. He even thought about leaving Silicon Valley. He felt like he had failed. But after some time, he realized that although Apple had rejected him, he still loved creating. So he decided to start again. Jobs founded a new company named Next, but Next struggled commercially. Its computers were expensive. The company did not become the success Jobs had imagined. But Jobs was learning. He was becoming better at design, better at software, better at understanding what he wanted from technology. Then in 1986, he bought a small computer graphics company from Lucasfilm. It became Pixar. At first, Pixar was small, but Jobs believed in it. And years later, Pixar released Toy Story, the first feature-length computer animated film. Pixar became a huge success, but the story was not finished. Apple was struggling. The company had lost its direction. In 1996, Apple acquired Next, and Steve Jobs came back to Apple. The man who had been pushed out was now returning. But this time he was different. He pushed Apple to focus on fewer products, better products, less clutter, more simplicity, and above all, a better experience. In 1998 came the iMac, then the iPod, then the iPhone, and later the iPad. Apple was no longer simply a computer company. It had become a company that was changing the way people interacted with technology. There was another idea Jobs had carried with him since he was 17: death. He once came across the idea: if you live each day as if it were your last, someday you will most certainly be right. From then on, he used a simple question: if today were the last day of my life, would I want to spend it doing what I am about to do? If the answer was no for too many days, he knew something had to change. Then in 2003, he was diagnosed with a tumor in his pancreas. Suddenly, death was no longer just an idea. It was real. And that experience made his philosophy even stronger. He realized that when you remember that life is limited, many things become small. Fear, embarrassment, failure, other people's opinions, the need to impress people, they all become less important. What remains is what truly matters. When Steve Jobs dropped out of college, he had no idea where his life was going. It was a frightening decision. Years later, when he was forced out of Apple, again he did not know what would come next. But he kept moving. He followed his heart, he trusted his intuition, and he kept doing what he loved. That may be the greatest lesson from Steve Jobs. You don't have to know exactly where your life is going. When life knocks you down, don't think the story is over. Being forced out of Apple felt like the end for Steve Jobs. But years later, he realized it had opened the door to one of the most creative periods of his life. That's the strange thing about life. We cannot see the whole picture while we are living it. Sometimes we understand it only when we look back. And then the dots begin to connect. Because what feels like the end of your story may simply be the beginning of something you never imagined.